gpa.com.
Welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report on this September 11th, 2025, the anniversary of 9/11. I'm joined by Jim Paff of theconservativecaucus.org. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Logan?
Good. It's been a long 2 days. A lot has happened, and sad 2 days as well.
Well, you know, it's 9/11, and that's somber enough. When you add the assassination of Charlie Kirk to the mix, it's really crazy. And in fact, I think people are probably on television seeing more about Charlie Kirk than they are about 9/11, and that's sad in a sense because I mean we lost a lot of wonderful people on that day, and we do need to remember them and honor them, but. It just really emphasizes how dangerous this world is and can be, and how important it is for us to stand up for the institutions that our founders created here in the United States. Because in reality, the United States really is the last place of freedom in the world, even compared to Europe today, which is going and suffering through a severe assault on free speech and personal liberty. I mean, who'd have thought that Europe would be so diametrically opposed to what we, by a thread, still have in this country? And that's something that we need to remember on a day like today.
Yeah. And it's significant how, you know, in such a short, you know, just 1 day before 9/11, I mean, this is probably one of the biggest events that's occurred in our country since 9/11.
It really is. I mean, other than the president getting shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, but there's a consistency here. Although they're trying to hide the motives of the shooter in Butler, the reality is that we have a lot of leftist violence taking place. And listen, I know that this kind of violence is not absolutely exclusive to the left. There has been violence perpetrated by people who might be characterized as being on the right, so to speak. But that is a pittance compared to what's happening from the left. And all of this is inspired by radical language from Democrats in this country, elected Democrats in particular in this country. And we also saw, after all this happened with Charlie Kirk, the app Blue Sky, which is where all the leftists went when they left X. Blue Sky was filled with jovial, happy expressions of desire and gladness that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And Blue Sky as a company itself had to tell people to stop it. It was so bad. So there is a strain of violence in this country that the left is committed to. For a lot of reasons we could go into, but that we need to understand that this is a time for the uniting of the American people, not the uniting of the Republican and the Democrat Party, as some Republicans on Capitol Hill are calling for. And I just think it's a weak response. We have to be urgent about this and firm about it.
Yes. And Trump was out today. He's traveling now to New York City for the Yankees game for 9/11. But he was talking with reporters about Charlie, the investigation, and here's one of those clips now.
Are you planning to go to the UN General Assembly?
Great speech today. What is your message to other conservative influencers, podcasters, TV hosts, that they might be targeted by some of these radical groups?
Well, we have to be brave in life. You know, in all fairness, we have a life and we have to be brave. I probably shouldn't be out here talking to you in all fairness, but we will be brave. And we have a great country. We have radical left lunatics out there, and we just have to beat the hell out of them.
Mr. President, Charlie is my boss.
He works for Charlie Kirk. He's 30 years old.
Charlie Kirk was my boss, and we're absolutely devastated. So I'm wondering if you have a message for our Turning Point USA family.
I do. It's a great family, a great friend of mine who is, I would say,
That one's a little harder to hear, but he was telling them how he's giving Charlie the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor. And he looked very sad today. I mean, this morning when he was at the memorial for 9/11, he did not look happy.
Well, and there are many people who are saying that they had talked to him and he sounded very somber on the phone. There's a lot of reason to be somber. And by the way, Charlie Kirk deserves the Congressional Medal of Freedom. When you listen to his grasp and understanding of what American liberty is about, it was not some superficial thing that he would throw out there. It was substantive. It was deep. He had truly understood what the American ideal is about. And I think that's a call to action for all of us who believe in that, to be as firmly resolved and those of us who are leaders in the conservative movement to express as deep an understanding of that liberty and to continue to contend for it. It's worthwhile. We are opposed by a Democrat Party which is not an American party. Right now, it is inspired by Maoist communist principles, the same principles that led to the Cultural Revolution in China after they defeated Chiang Kai-shek and his more liberty-minded contingent that ended up over in Taiwan. They totally destroyed anyone who would oppose them, literally destroyed them, both by killing them at the worst stage, but by doing what were called struggle sessions, where they would bring people out, and mostly the students did it in China. They would bring these people out in public and shame them, put signs on them, and make them feel, I just can't imagine what some of these people went through in these struggle sessions. And something akin to that has been happening, particularly in the Biden administration. It goes back even into the Obama administration, but it came with force in the Biden administration, where they were specifically attempting to shut down free speech, censoring platforms, censoring people specifically, shutting them out of social media, and having a compliant mainstream media, which was determined to promote lies. I mean, Donald Trump was very right to call it the fake news, because the news has been fake. And we're finding out more and more. We all knew it was the case. We're finding out more and more with evidence how committed liars the mainstream media has been. So we got a chance to break out of that, but it's still simmering there in the Democrat Party, ready to come back with force if they ever can gain control of Congress and the White House again.
Yeah, and it showed the fakeness the media showed even more yesterday, with how they, all of a sudden wanted to talk about how great of a man Charlie Kirk was, when they cast him as a demon for the past how many years. And
and they're trying to save their political butts too.
Yeah.
And listen, do not be fooled by it. I will say this. There are a few people on the left who I think have been sincere about their concern about this. One of them that I'm going to give credit to is Ezra Klein, who's really a leftist political commentator with the New York Times. And in his article that he wrote, which I think was net a really good article, he did bring up things like January 6th and stuff like that, which I think is not a good analogy at all. But the thing that he pointed out was his admiration and respect for Charlie Kirk, who he saw as someone trying to advance the normal process of political debate in the United States. I'll come against Ezra Klein, I'm sure, in the future in some way, but actually it came across as a sincere concern for what happened and how we don't need to go there. But that is the exception, not the rule. Every other Democrat politician is out there trying to pretend like they're concerned about it, but they keep trying to wrap in January 6th, which was nothing at all of this sort, and try to say this is everybody's problem. It's not everybody's problem. It's the Democrat problem primarily. Again, with some exceptions on the fringes of the conservative movement, but they're very rare. The violence and the assaults on liberty are coming from the Democrat Party. They're not coming from the Republican Party.
Yeah, and what's so sad is Charlie, probably more than any other person on the right, was trying his hardest to find common ground and have discussion with the left. And here's a clip where he's telling this girl why he does what he does and why it's so important.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this? What is emotional violence, by the way? I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me. Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry. I got a question.
It makes me angry. See, that's another thing that the media has pushed, is that words are violence. Having a discussion about having a debate or an argument is taken as violence. If you say something they agree with, then you are committing violence against them. And you have the right.
Yeah, go ahead. You have the right what?
You have the right to come back with physical violence. And that's basically what Ilhan Omar was referring to today when she said that Charlie said all these terrible things. He said all these terrible things. So it's basically justifying that he deserved to be killed.
Well, I want to repeat something I was talking about a lot during COVID, publicly and otherwise. Listen, the First Amendment, well, let me back up further here. You had the left, the Democrats on the left, saying during COVID and related to other issues as well, they were doing it with climate change even before that. They were saying that people, misinformation and disinformation is not authorized under the First Amendment. But my retort is, no, that is the purpose for the First Amendment, is to allow misinformation and disinformation. People are going to get it wrong. Misinformation and disinformation is often subjective. And we found out over the last 10 years that with Democrats, they were filled with misinformation and disinformation and malinformation. Misinformation being I got it wrong, disinformation mean I purposely am putting out a lie, and malinformation meaning I'm attempting to harm someone with my words. All of that is the reason for the First Amendment, because human beings get it wrong. Everybody gets it wrong sometimes. And you need to allow for wrong to come into play so that the logical conclusion can be brought to bear, which will correct the wrong and even correct the lie or the attempt to harm with language. And that's it. The First Amendment isn't for truth. It's not to protect truth. It's to advance truth in a culture where human beings get truth wrong. The other problem with the Democrats right now is they're worse than relativistic. Like a relativism is the idea that my perspective matters, not truth. My perspective is the prime reality, not reality itself. That's what that woman is saying there. She's offended and angry because her reality is being challenged. And in the case of with what Charlie would tend to say, with truth itself. So someone can be very angry at the truth. I mean, let's just go back 2,000 years. You had the Pharisees working out and priming up a crowd to kill Jesus Christ, to literally murder him. Jesus Christ, God himself incarnate, who said to Pilate, in Pilate's questioning of him, I came to bear witness of the truth. And he was the origin of all truth, God himself incarnate. And the Pharisees were seeking to cause harm. They were angry at Jesus because he called them out for their lies, and he was killed for it. And that, because of that and his substitutionary death, we have a way back to God and an opportunity to have a relationship with him. That's how truthful Jesus was. So people can get as angry as they want. They can be as offended as they want. But if you do not have the ability to offend, you do not have the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech allows for that. Last point I'll make here I created a podcast many years ago called Against Nice, and I had some really good interviews with it, and I haven't been doing it as much lately. But one of the points that I try to make here is that there is no biblical command to be nice at all. There is no need to be particularly nice to people. What the command is in Scripture is to be kind. But to help illustrate what that means, no one would ever consider or should never consider a parent very kind if they don't discipline their children in some fashion. And no child being disciplined thinks it's very nice. I mean, that's one way to understand what we're looking for here. Charlie Kirk was very kind to everyone that he talked to. He might have been unkind sometimes. He's a human being. But he was very kind in general with people and how he approached them because his goal was their good. And he expressed that goal for their good by attempting to propagate truth in a world filled with lies. The kind person attempts to propagate truth, even with great opposition. The kind person, even if opposed by everybody, will continue to offend with truth, but not in an offensive manner. The kindness keeps us from being offensive, particularly so, but it does not keep us from saying offensive things when it's the truth. That's what we're striving for, and that's what we need to keep working toward in this society.
Yep, and I can't tell you how many clips are out there of people coming up to Charlie and swearing at him and telling him how horrible he is, and he doesn't respond back with, he doesn't fight back. He just takes it and moves along. But we got to go to break. We'll be right back here in just a moment with more.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Well, that was just moments ago. J.D. Vance helping carry the casket onto Air Force Two to take him back to Arizona. Moving on, though, we have Trump's now in New York City. There's reports. Well, I guess we have breaking news on a different subject. We have a shooter, a reported shooter at I had it here.
It's at the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
This was reported I was listening to Fox News a little earlier. They were reporting that a midshipman was kicked out and came back with a gun. And so they've locked down the Naval Academy to try to deal with the situation.
Yeah, and there's no reports yet on if there's any victims or who he is or anything like that, but we'll stay on it. But here is Trump in the locker room with the Yankees.
Well, you're going to win. I'll tell you what, George Steinbrenner was a great friend of mine. The whole family. It's a great family, and Randy is wonderful, and I will say you're going to win. George used to coach. For some reason, I don't know what it was, we won every time I came. Randy, is that right? Every time we came, we'd win a game, and he'd call me. He was, you think that was easy sitting with him for a game? It wasn't. It was brutal. You were exhausted at the end, but he won, and you're going to win. You're going to go all the way, and you'll get in the playoff, and I think you're going to do, I think we'll start off, how about tonight? We'll start from tonight on, and you're going to do well. Randy was telling me the Boston Red Sox came to the Oval Office. They wanted to come, so I said, what am I going to do? Say no? And they won 15 games in a row.
That was bad news. Bad news. We're changing the luck here right now, Mr.
We're going to change it right now. So I just want to wish you guys a lot of luck. You're great players. I know every one of you.
Well, it seems like they like Trump.
Well, and kudos to the New York Yankees. Yesterday in their game, they had a short honorarium for Charlie Kirk. Sports have gone woke in so many ways, and you have even all the MLB teams except the Texas Rangers have been doing trans nights and stuff like that, including the Yankees. But to their credit, they did honor Charlie Kirk last night with a moment of silence, and they put his picture up on the screen, and you got to give him credit for that. And I'll bet Donald Trump gets a rousing ovation on that Yankees field. That would be very interesting to see in New York City.
Yeah. And there's reports also I saw earlier of a man who has made threats against Trump in New York City, who the Secret Service and the NYPD are looking for currently. So hopefully they are able to keep him away.
Well, it just reemphasizes the violence is coming. The political violence, I should say, is coming primarily from the left. It is absurd what's going on from the left right now.
Well, this just shows it right here. I mean, I wasn't even going to show it, but there's a T-shirt company already out with shirts saying "Debate this" with Charlie Kirk being shot on it.
It's crazy. I mean, it's absurd. It's nearly criminal. I guess it's a free speech issue, and they have a right to do that, maybe, but they don't have a right to suffer no consequences for the harm that they're causing. And this is why I'm telling conservatives and Democrat voters who voted for Donald Trump, what I'm saying is the Democrat Party is not an American party. Do not seek unity with the Democrat Party. And I'm talking about the elected officials and the institutional officials. They do not believe in the American ideal. They are opposed to the American ideal, and we need to call them out for that. The unity needs to be around the American ideal, not these institutions that fail us.
Yep. Well, I'd be amiss if I didn't mention that President Bolsonaro in Brazil was just sentenced to 27 years and 3 months in prison. And what's his crime?
So they claim his crime is that he was fomenting a coup. Remember, in Brazil in 2023, on January 8th, they had a very similar incident to our January 6th incident in 2021 because people were protesting the loss. By the way, I can't prove that the election was stolen from Donald Trump in 2020, although I have suspicious concerns about a lot of the voting that happened around the country. But in Brazil, I do believe it was absolutely stolen. And in that case, by Dominion voting machines. Because, and this is why I say that, and I'm not necessarily saying Dominion particularly was guilty of this, although they may have played a role. But the government institutions there had they had implemented in 2018 when Bolsonaro was elected paper proof of votes that were made. In Brazil, every voting age citizen is required to vote by law. It's a very interesting setup they have there. But in 2022, they removed the paper proof of vote. They did it entirely electronically, and the current president there, Lula da Silva, was brought out of prison to run against Jair Bolsonaro in 2022. And that was a miscarriage of justice because he had been convicted of corruption when he was president the previous time. Dilma Rousseff was president when Bolsonaro was first elected, and he defeated her. Lula had been president beforehand, and they had what they called their car wash scandal, and Lula was thrown in prison for a similar amount of time. Well, the Supreme Court there brought him out of prison under false pretenses. They brought him onto the ballot, and I do believe that they stole the election from Jair Bolsonaro. But Bolsonaro was acting peacefully about it. In fact, he was here in the United States shortly thereafter for some time. And he decided to go back into Brazil just to encourage the people. And they've had massive demonstrations with him there. Recently, they threw him into prison under charges of a coup, which he never was part of. In fact, he made clear statements of no violence, be proper and kind. And yet Alexandre de Moraes, the Supreme Court justice there, put together really what in effect was a kangaroo court. The overall court, their federal Supreme Court tribunal, they did not hear this case in front of the entire tribunal, or else probably Bolsonaro would have been not convicted. In fact, he should have gone to a lower court, one of the 5 justices that Moraes put together recently, and 2 of them voted against this, and 3 voted for his conviction. One of the justices that dissented spent all day yesterday in a very long and very, by the way, eloquent speech in opposition to his conviction, laid out clearly why the justice system was being undermined by this thing. This was a setup. And very similar, and this is why Donald Trump talked about it being a setup as well, just like what Donald Trump went through. But this one was successful, and they're really under an authoritarian regime that's not even run by President Lula. It's really run by Alexandre de Moraes, who is constantly ruling in favor of shutting down free speech and throwing people in prison who oppose his dictatorial statutes. It is a real crime what's going on in Brazil. Brazil is 2/3 the population of the United States. It's a very important country in South America and in this hemisphere. And I've spent I know many of the congressmen down there. I'm acquainted with President Bolsonaro. I'm friends with Eduardo Bolsonaro, his son, who's now here in the United States in exile. And one of my closest personal friends is Alan dos Santos, who is a journalist who is also here in exile because they stole all of his property and they shut down his expansive conservative news property that he had down there, which was very, very effective. And they stole everything from him, and he had to run to the United States to keep from being a political prisoner. And if he went back there, he would immediately be made a political prisoner. In fact, Lula's government tried to trade a Russian spy in Brazil with Alan dos Santos, a freedom fighter. This is a crazy situation going on in Brazil. Many close Trump associates like Jason Miller have joined me in fact, him more effectively or more broadly than me in Brazil. But I'm kind of a little bit of a popular person in certain aspects of the conservative movement in Brazil, because when I put up an X post, which I do in Portuguese often, I get massive response from this. The people are responding to me on this. I've been calling this out as well. This is a serious situation Donald Trump is trying to deal with. Marco Rubio announced today that our government would take more measures against them. We need freedom in Brazil because it's a critical country. There's freedom in Argentina thanks to Javier Milei getting elected, who is also a supporter of Bolsonaro. But we need that in Brazil as well, and so that freedom can propagate in this hemisphere.
Tomorrow at tomorrow's Friday. We won't be back for the Washington Report, but we'll be back on all the other shows. We'll stay tuned for Trump in New York tonight and pray for Charlie Kirk's wife and kids, and keep them in mind.
Keep Charlie Kirk's wife in prayer. 2 little kids that are very young and have their very young father murdered by a leftist extremist. And this it's really challenging. This is a human story that everyone needs to keep in mind as well. It's easy to forget his family, but they are still here suffering while he is in the presence of a holy God, worshiping him now. They need your help, so keep them in prayer.
Yep. Take care.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, America mourns the murder of an American patriot who built an organization underpinned by a strong advocacy of free speech and traditional Christian values.